Consider the following situation. I was at track practice with my friend Corbin when he turns to me and says, "Do you remember that time that we were at that store and we found a chessboard and played a game with one of the employees, which we won? The only problem was, I didn't remember that moment at all." So I asked him, "Are you sure it was me? Could it have been someone else?" I still didn't really believe him, but that's when Corbin looked at me straight in the eye and told me I have never been more certain of something in my entire life. I usually trust someone when they say that they're certain, but this time I really couldn't recall the event. Corbin's known to have some memory issues, so I tried asking more questions to see where the confusion comes from. To make a long story short, I ended up proving that it was not me who played chess with him, but instead it was Corbin's older brother, Adam. At the moment, I was mostly just angry and resolved to not trust Corbin's unreliable memory. But from a TOK perspective, I often think back to the day and wonder what went wrong. From what I have figured out, the main issue came because Corbin used faith as his biggest way of knowing. To me, faith is pretty unreliable and doesn't offer a guaranteed solution. It was not a religious faith, but Corbin had complete faith in himself to the point where he could assume certainty. This situation also makes me think of an important knowledge question. Is incorrect knowledge really knowledge at all? It's kind of a tough question to answer. First, I have to define knowledge. I like to think of knowledge as facts, information, and understanding of a concept. I'll look at Corbin's situation in two different ways. First, I will assume that Corbin's claim that I was at the store with him to be knowledge. If I am to assume that Corbin's incorrect statement is to be a form of knowledge, then I am implying any incorrect statement can be knowledge. But where does this implication end? If I were to intentionally lie to someone, would it still be knowledge? If somebody honestly believes in a concept, then that concept can be considered knowledge. Using the same logic, this theory can be used to claim that Sigmund Freud and all of his claims are also knowledge, even though they were ultimately proven to be false. In both Corbin and Freud's case, it is possible to say that knowledge can be false. There is the other perspective that Corbin's claim was not actually knowledge, because he was wrong and I was not at the store with him. This argument makes the most sense because it is easy to argue that an incorrect statement is not real knowledge. But don't forget that there are two types of truths, relative and absolute. Relative truths are temporal and are subject to change. Absolute truths, however, will remain true forever. For example, at one point in time, it was knowledge that Russia was a communist country. However, they are no longer communist, so calling Russia communist is a temporal truth, or relative. The question is, can knowledge contain relative truths, or must it be comprised only of absolute truth? If knowledge could only be made of absolute truths, then any piece of knowledge would have to be infinite and last forever. Clearly, this isn't true because some pieces of knowledge do not last forever. Some knowledge is comprised of relative truths, such as the knowledge that Russia is a communist state. Think back to Corbin. Technically what he said was not a truth because he was wrong. However, he did use the word certainty. To me, certainty is essentially a truth. So, in his mind, he did tell a truth. Of course, that truth was relative because it changed, it wasn't permanent. Corbin stated his facts and explained his understanding of the concept, therefore, what he told me was knowledge. Those are the two interpretations I can get out of the situation, either treating Corbin's information as knowledge or treating it as non-knowledge. Personally, I believe what Corbin said was not knowledge. However, I am biased because I knew he was wrong the entire time. Furthermore, I can think of examples where I was wrong, but I would still have considered what I said to be knowledge. So, in a way, I am a bit hypocritical. For example, sometimes in calculus, there are questions that are tough, and I'm the only one out of my friends who are able to solve it. I'll solve the question, but I'll miss something stupid like a negative symbol or a decimal point. And in theory, my answer is not correct. However, I am able to do the problem, so I would say I have knowledge, but other people could argue that because I was wrong, I don't have knowledge. Incorrect information can either be treated as knowledge or not knowledge, and really, it's up to personal preference. There is no one right answer. Now I want to figure out where the confusion came from, and more importantly, why Corbin was so insistent on arguing his point even though he was wrong. Obviously, our conflicting viewpoints came from different ways of knowing. Ultimately, we were both relying on memory of the subject. However, Corbin and I treated our memories a little differently. Corbin had complete faith in his memories, so the first thing that he thought of was what he believed. I like to think I took the logical route, and as soon as I realized that the two of us had conflicting ideas, I tried to deduce where the mistake came from. It took me a while, but I eventually managed to ask the right questions and prove that it was his brother and not me at the store. I want to have a second opinion for my argument, so I've asked Corbin himself to talk about the situation.
Alright, so you said you were certain about something, but you were not right, and you don't take back your statement. You still think that certainty was the correct word to use.
Well, there's a clear difference, I think, between certainty in someone's opinion versus certainty in knowledge. See, what I said was I've never been more certain in my life, and to an extent that is very true because whilst I was wrong, I was very certain of the fact, which happened to be false, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is a difference between opinions and knowledge to that extent, but knowledge can be your opinion. I think all knowledge is what your opinion is, and universally accepted ideas is what most people would consider knowledge. Like I know this many math problems, how to solve this many math problems, 999 or something. Some people would consider that as just knowledge, but I think we need to expand further on that and understand that someone's opinion is also another form of knowledge in its own. That to formulate your own conclusions on certain issues, whether it be wrong or right, is a form of knowledge because it is your understanding and your interpretation of that situation.
How would you feel about stating that there are two different types of knowledge? There's knowledge that is correct, and then there's knowledge that's just opinion.
There is certainly a difference in those two incidences.
Well, there you have it. Your own personal knowledge can be true, false, correct in the moment, or purely opinion, as long as it demonstrates your own understanding of a subject. It's only when you try and share this knowledge that conflicts arise. This is why personal religious knowledge conflicts with other people's religion. Two different religions can't both be right, but that doesn't mean that one religion is knowledgeable and the other one is not. I have come to the overall conclusion that knowledge does not have to be correct in order for it to be knowledge. And sorry that Corbin's interview was sideways. I was certain that holding my phone horizontally would give the full screen effect.